Hey guys, Ben here and welcome back to another video. We got a great video for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the future of the Arrowverse and the DCEU, as the head of DC Studios, James Gunn, has come out with new statements in regards to the future of crossovers and things standing alone. So if you do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future DCTV videos later this year. I wanted to remind you guys just quickly that my merchandise is available if you want to get a t-shirt or a hoodie with the DCTV show on it. Click on the link in the description below to go get yourself one. Also remember, we have a special offer that is ending December 15th, so that is in exactly 2 weeks from today. Today is December 1st. You can buy 2 or more items and you'll be getting a special Arrowverse delivery sent to your door, which is going to be signed by myself. So if you want to support the channel, go to the link in the description below and get the merchandise. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's main topics. Okay, so we have a few topics and this has been talked about in like the last day or so. I know Eric made a video with Paigey on it, but I'm going to be giving my analysis, and I think my analysis is going to be interesting for you guys, so please be sure to stick around throughout the entire video. But basically, James Gunn has come out on Twitter and has answered many questions about the role and the kind of position that he's taking since he has become the head of DC Studios. So the title of the Variety article, which you'll find in the description below, is James Gunn: Some standalone projects will still exist outside of a DC universe that connects film, TV, animation and games. Okay, so let's go ahead and read this article and we'll break it down bit by bit. So James Gunn is the new co-chairman and co-CEO of DC Studios alongside Peter Safran. And he confirmed during a Twitter Q&A just the other day with fans that the DC universe under his watch will be connected across film, television, animation and video games. But that doesn't mean Gunn and Safran are putting a ban on standalone projects that exist outside of the larger interconnected DCU. In recent years, the animated series Harley Quinn and films such as the Joaquin Phoenix starring Joker and Robert Pattinson starring the Batman have told DC stories separate of the main DC universe. And so in response to this, Gunn said, yes, some. In response to, will there be some standalone animation or live action shows that take place in separate worlds? So what's my take on this? Well, I think this is good news. So it's good news for projects like Joker and the Batman that they're not going to be forced to become part of the DCEU, which is definitely something that they were teasing. They were like, okay, so since we've had this big change at Warner Brothers and Discovery's in charge, David Zaslav has been pretty clear that he wants to connect all of it, and he's not such a big fan of the multiverse in terms of like having 5 different Batmans or 5 Supermans or something like that. So that obviously gave a lot of people questions, and so it's good that James Gunn is coming out and answering questions from fans on Twitter before any of his films that he's working on, or TV shows or games or animation, some answers. And so it's great to see that these standalone projects are still going to exist, because Gunn replied, yes, some, in response to the question. And so what does this mean for Superman and Lois? Now, I'm specifically going to talk about Superman and Lois in this case because I don't think Gotham Knights is going to be saved by James Gunn or anything. I think if anything's saved, I think it's going to be Superman and Lois if the CW doesn't want it beyond season 3. And this is because even though this is part of the Arrowverse, they are setting up their own new continuity, the Superverse as we've been calling it. And so with Superman and Lois being quite isolated as of right now, it would be the perfect project to continue going on under James Gunn. Maybe they move it to whatever HBO Max turns out to be next year, and they continue Superman and Lois as one of those standalone projects. Because I was very scared when there was all this talk about basically most of the stuff being incorporated into the DCU, or, you know, incorporated into this one larger universe with like film, TV, animation and video games. So that puts into question projects that were inherently quite separate or isolated, like Harley Quinn or the Batman or anything like that, including Superman and Lois. So you're like, okay, so are they just going to cut out all those extra Elseworlds projects? Because technically Superman and Lois is now a kind of Elseworlds project if the Arrowverse doesn't continue. And like we've said before previously, we've cancelled half of these shows. Well, we in terms of the CW has. And obviously James Gunn doesn't have any say to do with that, but he's made it clear, like with Legends, he actually responded to a fan recently that he's probably not going to be saving Legends and bringing back like these cancelled projects. So don't get your hopes up in terms of that, but in terms of shows that are continuing, there is definitely the chance that James Gunn could save some of them. So the way I interpret it is that this is pretty good news for Superman and Lois. Now I'm not saying it's 100% confirmed that Superman and Lois is going to be saved beyond a, say, cancellation from the CW if they decide to cancel it at the end of season 3, which we are all pretty certain they're going to do because it's a very expensive show, and I don't think they're going to want to continue that costs, well, basically paying those costs for a show that potentially isn't getting the ratings and kind of money that they want back. So that's why a lot of us are very scared about them cancelling it. Okay, so we're going to go back to the article and continue reading what it says. So Gunn also confirms he is planning to give more DC characters their own television series in order to build out the DC universe, adding, yes, most definitely the DCEU will be connected across film and television and animation. When one fan asked, are there plans for games to be connected to the DCEU as well, Gunn answered yes. So that is very interesting. Now, I kind of presumed he would be focusing on TV as well as film, because when they initially announced that he was, you know, the new co-founder and co-CEO of DC Studios along with Peter Safran, his producer, they made it pretty clear that DC Studios would be in charge of film, television, animation and games. And so that was just, you know, your first sign. But now that he's actually confirming that he's planning to give more DC characters their own television series, I think this is great news, because obviously DCTV isn't just the Arrowverse. That's not all we talk about. Say, for instance, on this channel, we talk about all DC stuff. But obviously the Arrowverse has been such a core part of DCTV for a long time, beyond, you know, like Titans and Doom Patrol and Young Justice. It was because the CW was the hub for live action DC content, but in recent years, obviously HBO Max and DC Universe was a thing, and even though, you know, the validity of it right now has been called into question with David Zaslav basically not putting as much emphasis on streaming, has made fans question a lot about those shows and any potential future shows. But I think because James Gunn made Peacemaker for DC and that was a TV show, it came out on HBO Max, loads of people loved it, I think that puts us in a good position in terms of, since he is in control, he's able to push for more TV content as well as film content, because I think mainly David Zaslav is going to be pushing for film the most, right? He wants to make a bunch of money by releasing DC films in the cinema. That's how they make their money. However, with TV shows, they can make money other ways by doing advertisements, say on TV, and basically having a very popular show, but also by, you know, streaming with HBO Max. You have subscribers, and, you know, HBO Max has a certain amount of subscribers, and right now it isn't very profitable for them in terms of, you know, them pumping a load of money into the production of these shows and basically spending more than they're getting back, because they're not always necessarily getting new subscribers or like a substantial big amount of new subscribers that can account for the large amount of money that they spend on productions. So I understand where David Zaslav's skepticism comes from, but I think with James Gunn in control, like I said, I think the fact that TV is going to be still a big thing is very lucky for us. And so it's going to be interesting that he says that the DCU will be well connected across film, TV, animation, and even video games. I think it's interesting in terms of animation. We've had animated films that are connected to certain projects, like for instance the Arrowverse has had many canon spin-offs that were like short animated episodes, like you saw that with Vixen and also the Ray and different things like that. So that was pretty cool. However, the DCEU, the animated universe, has pretty much stayed within its own boundaries for a long time, so it's going to be interesting if there's actually any canon spin-offs in terms of animation, and it seems James Gunn is pretty set on still connecting them. But I think the most interesting one is the fact that he's talking about video games being connected to, you know, the DC universe as a whole, so film, TV, and animation. And I have a theory. I think the video games connection is going to be more like a spin-off off of, say, a big film. So say they make a new Superman film, Superman 2, whatever they call it. I'm pretty sure they'll make a game to come out around that time. I think that's what he is kind of planning. Now, I have no inside information. He could be going for a completely different strategy, but that would make the most sense in terms of, you know, fans are excited for a new project that's coming out. Like, imagine if they released a Batman game at the same time they released the Batman earlier this year. I think that would have got a lot more attention than just like a Batman game randomly coming out today, so December 1st. I would say if it came out last March when the Batman came out, that obviously would have got a lot more attention. So I think there could be some interconnected video games and films by basically loosely connecting them to each other. I wouldn't read too much into them actually fully crossing over. And so the one area that Gunn will not be focusing on is DC Comics, although he told one fan that there will be a very open communication between his DC Studios and DC Comics. And so that's obviously a big distinction. So he's not going to be in control of DC Comics or anything, because comics is different. He's in control of anything that's filmed in terms of DC or kind of live action, I guess. So you could count video games in that as well. So what do you guys think of all of this? I think it's very interesting that, you know, James Gunn is being so open, and I think, you know, it puts us in a good spot, especially for the Arrowverse and Superman Lois specifically, because he is not completely isolating those separate projects that aren't right now directly connected to the DCEU. You could actually argue that the Arrowverse is, considering the fact that Ezra Miller showed up in Crisis on Infinite Earths. But I think because that was Crisis, it was just like an extraordinary event. I don't think James Gunn is reading too much into that. So for now, if you did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like and a comment, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. Also, get some merch if you want to support the channel. Link is in the description below. Special offer still applies until December 15th, so get 2 or more items from the store and I'll send you a very special Arrowverse gift that's signed by myself to your door. So click on the top right corner of the screen to watch my latest video, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.
I see red.